In this video, we're going to go ahead and follow through what we have learned in our last video about learning about custom fonts. Here we're going to explore how to install the web style fonts and how to actually install an actual custom font that we actually found online. So let's get started. Now, as you already can tell, I am already on google.com. Now, if you're trying to find an actual online source to actually get a web font from, you can always go ahead and type in your Google search and you go with commercial free fonts. And just to see if you get trouble, go ahead and enter, and it'll give you a list of fonts or websites you could go to for that. Now, if you're trying to refer to a online source, I recommend Google Fonts. Now here you could actually have an abundance of different kinds of fonts you would pick and choose from. And usually they have two different looks. We actually have their new site, or I'm on the classic one right now, but I'm gonna switch over to their new site, which may have like something similar to this on your screen. But I prefer to go with the classic site, makes it more easier to manage. So if you want to try to go ahead and do an online source, all you pretty much want to do, I'm gonna go ahead and select Roboto, and I'm gonna click on the little plus sign here. And as you can tell, we have a pop-up at the bottom right of our screen. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna go right here to the bottom, and you can see here that it gives us the option of actually embedding that font in here. So as you can see here, we have the standard, which allows us to actually link the font from an online source using HTML, or we could use the import option, which allows us to actually bring in the syntax inside of our CSS and embed it inside there as well. Now, what we'll be doing in here, in this case, we'll be taking this line of code here, or a line of syntax, and we're going to actually copy it and paste it onto our CSS. And right below that, if you want to try to call forth that particular font that we actually installed in our CSS, you can see here we actually have the font family, and we actually have the name of that font. And we actually have the name of that font along with the actual backup font, just in case if that font is not available on that website. Now that we actually have our online source in hand, now let's go to our Sublime text. So we'll go ahead and edit out our CSS so that we can apply this actual online source to our HTML document so we could test it out inside of our browser. So here we are inside of our text editor. We're using the same document as we did before when using our styling fonts exercise in our styling fonts lab. And pretty much one thing I got rid of is just the actual font family itself. Now, in order to install this font in here, like I stated before, if we actually went ahead and went to Google Fonts to actually copy that CSS syntax from that page, all we have to do is press Control V on our keyboard, or Command V if you're using a Mac, or if you want to right click and hit paste that line of syntax inside of your style tag for your CSS. All this is pretty much going to grab the information from fonts.google and actually apply that font to our HTML document. Now, going back to our reference here, as I said before, we have our selected font. If we want to apply that font onto any body of text, we got to make sure we highlight this text in here, or the syntax. It gives us the full syntax on how to actually apply that font family to our CSS. So I'm going to do my Control C to copy, or Command C if you're using your Mac. Right back inside of our text editor, I'm just going to go ahead and apply this particular font to our H2. I'm going to do a Control V or Command V to paste that same syntax in here. And all I'm going to do, file save, and what will happen is once I go into my web browser, I should be able to see an update as far as what our font will look like once we start processing that on our web document. So let's switch over to our web browser to see these results in action. So here we are inside of our web browser, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to press F5 to refresh our page. And as you can see, that our text has in fact updated and actually applied the font that we got from Google Fonts and has applied itself to our H2 heading. Now, what we'll be doing next is that we're going to go to our secondary source and actually go ahead and start to apply a custom font that we have downloaded from a website and apply that inside of our CSS and apply it to our H1 to see how those results would end out. So here we are inside of our web browser, and I'm going to go ahead and click on our secondary tab to show forth our reference. So I'm actually on 1000 fonts, and I am going to be using Scriptina font. Now, as you can see here, using this website, you can actually see there's many different icons on here. If you see the one with the $sign, as I hover over it, it says right here, it's free for commercial use. So we can actually, in fact, download it onto our computer and actually apply it on our website if we decide to choose to go in that direction. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and click my download and process that. Now, as you can see here, it's going straight towards my custom fonts folder. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go right into my folder that should have font. I'm going to go inside that folder and I'm going to save this particular font inside of my font folder inside of my web directory. So I'm going to hit save. So that way it downloads, and pretty much it is downloaded as a zip folder. What we can do, I'm going to go ahead and show it inside my folder. And pretty much what this would allow us to do is we got to unzip this file in order to have access to the actual file that's inside of it, or access to our font. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to right click and I'm going to extract. And as you can see, it already extract all the information from that folder and put it in there as well. So I actually have two files. I'm going to be using the Scriptin file for our example here. What we're going to be doing is we're going to switch back over to our text editor and actually go ahead and install this font onto our web directory so we can apply it to our H1 so that way it be displayed properly on our web browser. So here we are inside of our text editor, and all I'm going to do, I'm going to start at the very top. I'm going to start where my importing of my Google font have been applied towards. I'm going to hit enter a few times. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the attribute known as @FontFace. Because what the @FontFace does, we're trying to actually register an actual font onto our website or inside of our CSS. So that way we actually know where to actually find it in case we call upon it within our web document. So the first thing we're going to take care of, I'm going to put my curl brackets, and in here, I'm going to type in my font family. Here, we could actually name it however name we wanted to, but keep everything simple. I'm going to use the exact same name as the font being displayed in my font directory. So I'm going to call this one Script 10, follow my semicolon. So that way, whenever I call forth this particular font, it will display itself inside of my directory. So now that we actually have the name of our font already been displayed, now we got to tell the browser where to actually find this font within our directory. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to type in src as our source, where to actually find this font at within our directory. And in here, I'm going to type in URL. We treat it as an actual web document. Follow with our two parentheses. And in here, I'm going to type in my double quote, I'm going to put in the location where they can actually find this font along with the name of it. I'm going to type in font, which is the name of our folder, followed with a / and then the actual name of the font in its entirety. So I got to incorporate in the actual capital letters, which is the name of that font. So I'm going to put in SCRIPTIN, and then just like how we normally do it for our images, we have to incorporate in the actual file type that it is, which is a TTF, which is called True Type Font. That way, when our browser actually have access to our website, it knows where to find this particular font within our directory. So now what we're going to do here, I'm going to go right down here to our H1. I'm going to type in font-family. using this particular name at the very top, I'm going to call forth that name, which will apply this particular source where to find that font. So I'm going to type in my script 10 with my semicolon. And all I'm going to do here, I'm going to do my Control S to save. See if it will work. Just for added measure, I'm going to do my file save as well. And the next thing I'm going to do, we're going to go right back into our web browser and actually see if these changes actually apply itself within our web page. So here we are back inside our web browser. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to press F5 to refresh. And as you all can see, our font has in fact updated and applies the actual script font to our H1, showing the fact that it has been applied to our website and is being displayed for our audience to actually look at. Just keep in mind, as I said before in the last video, when trying to import a customizable font through a web link, like from googlefonts.com or similar websites like that, if that font is not available, then you run the risk of that font not being displayed. But you can also download that font and repeat the same process as we did by using the font face and registering that font within your directory, so that way it can display itself within your website. Now, I do hope you find this very useful, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you.